Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to share with you my April TBR, which covers the Owls readathon, magical readathon, and taking my owls. I will be participating in the classic SFF readathon that is hosted by Maya from Maya Reads, where we focus on reading classic SFF by women. I also have my Stacking the Series, as well as the BookTube SFF Awards that I'm working on. And my TBR is intense, and I have 19 books on my TBR this month. And I'm already freaking out, but I guess it's fitting that now that we are in quarantine anyway, that my TBR is so ambitious. It makes it possible to actually complete this, but we'll see how things go. Let's start out with talking a little bit about the readathons that I am participating in. The Owls Magical Readathon is taking place in all of April. It is a recurring event every year that in April we are taking the Owls, and in August we are taking the Newts. In April we are deciding what sort of career we want to go for, and then we read books for the different prompts, and then by August we try and read books for the certain career path that we choose. This year I have decided to try and fit 4 different careers. I think the career paths I've been thinking about. The first one is Auror, and there's Curse Breaker, a librarian, or a Curse Maker. So that is one of the newer career paths that you could choose. And if I am to complete this, I will have to read 10 books for the Owls, and that in itself is not as big a deal if you can sort of mix them into the different other things that I want to do. But the problem was that a couple of the books I already had on my TBR couldn't fit for this, any of the books that I'd already selected. So that's why it ended up being 19 books. But I'm looking forward to it, and I think when I get to August, I'll probably go for a Curse Maker and not Curse that path if I have time. But the thing is, August is my the busiest month for me over the year in terms of my work, so I don't know if I'm able to actually follow through with that. And that's why I also lowered my own ambitions, because there's no doubt that the career I want is the Alchemist, but I will have to read 17 books in the Newt for that to happen, just for that, and I don't think that's something I can go for in August when I'm going to be that busy. So instead I'm going to go with some books, some career paths that still are a little bit ambitious, but also sound like something that will be fun as a working career path. So depending on how I feel like when I get to August, how stressed out I am, when we get to the end of July, I can sort of pick one of the 4. And that is why I decided to do it this way. I could also combine my Newts. So now, before I get into the actual books that I'm reading this month, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Classic SFF Readathon that I'm also participating in. That is hosted by Maya. The only rule is that you have to read Classic SFF written by women. That is published before the year 2000, and while 2000 isn't necessarily usually thought of as a classic book, it often women who write science fiction and fantasy is easily forgotten, especially in the adult science fiction and fantasy category. So that is why anything published before 2000 is by women is something you can read for this. So I'll leave a link to both the readathons announcement videos where you can read more about career paths and stuff down below, as well as the readathon, Classic SFF readathon, to know what is going on with that. And that is set from the 1st to the 12th of April. Now let's get into the books that I'm reading. I'll let you know if it covers an owl. So yeah, let's talk about the BookTube SFF reading first. There are 6 books I need to read for that. The first one I have to read for the BookTube SF Awards this year is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is one of the most hyped adult fantasy that came out last year. It was sort of marketed in the way, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I hope it's good. So far, the BookTube SF for this year hasn't been as good as I was hoping, but it's really, really big. It's like 830-ish pages, so definitely have to think about adding a lot of time to read that. The next book I have to read is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is also a standalone book. It's a science fiction nominee, adult science fiction nominee, and I have read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and while sort of enjoying it, there are definitely things that I found a little too convenient and not a good choice. But I have heard good things about this book also by people who actually had the same issues with Dark Matter, so I have good hopes that I will enjoy this one, so we'll see how it goes. Another book that I need to read is a sequel, and that is Starsight by Sanderson. This is the sequel to Skyward, which I read last year, and it's a science fiction book. It's nominated in the YA category, and I am looking forward to reading it. I did enjoy Skyward, so I'm looking forward to see where this one will go. And yeah, hopefully I will enjoy it. The next thing I had to read for the BookTube SF Awards is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I hope that I will enjoy this one. I did read her other book, An Enchantment of Ravens, that I read back in November and really enjoyed, so or was definitely pleasantly surprised. That's what I wanted to say, so I'm looking forward to seeing if that is going to be the case with the next one as well. This one as well is still a standalone. The next one is the first one that fit for an owl, and I like to say that I chose this for divination, which was how you had to randomize your TBR and choose a book that way, or randomize a selective TBR and pick that book. And the way that I did it is that the books that I'd already had on my TBR and couldn't make fit, I decided to make a list of those and first randomizing the list with assigning them numbers, and then go to another. It was a list of 9 books, and then assigning numbers, or then going to random or giving 1 to 9 in that, and then getting a random number, and the number I got was 8, and because of that I have to read Saul and Gabi Breaks the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. This is a middle grade category for the BookTube SF Awards, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I just read Dragon Pearl, which is also one of those Rick Riordan Presents books, and it was really, really good, so I have good hopes for this one as well, and I've seen very positive things from people who've read it for the BookTube SF Awards. The last and final BookTube SF Awards book that I need to read is The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a really short science fiction book, and it is now nominated in the short fiction category. And this book it fits the owl charms, which is a reader book with a mostly white cover, so I chose that for this one. Now, getting into the Stacking the Series part of my TBR, the first thing I need to read is Carpe Jugulum by Pratchett. This is the 23rd book in the Discworld series, and it's also one of the Witches series, and this is why it is covering an owl for ancient history, which was about witch hunts, and I had to read a book that centered around witches or wizards, and this is the Witches sub-series, so it has Granny Weatherwax, Nanny York, and Margaret, who are all witches. The next book that I have to read for my Stacking the Series is Murder on Sisters Row by Victoria Thompson. What number is it? 13th book in the Gaslight Mystery series. This one covers the owl herbology because I had to read a book with an M title. The next book I had to read is A Decaffeinated Corpse by Cleo Coyle. This is book 5 in the Coffee House mystery, and this doesn't cover an owl, but it's just one of the Stacking the Series. The next book I have is Dead and Gone by Charlaine Harris. This is the 9th book in the Suki Stackhouse series, and this I chose to work for Transfiguration Owl, which is a owl that you read where it features shapeshifters or shape changers or something like that. And definitely lots of shape changers in this series. But the next book that I have on my list could also work for this one, and that is Blameless by Gail Carriger. So it all depends on what I most feel like picking up and making it work for. So I can definitely use that one because our main character is married to a werewolf, so I figure it's quite obvious that it could work. Yeah, so those are my Stacking the Series books for the month. Now let's get my video was cut off because of low battery, so now I'm going to try and start up where I sort of left off. Let's start out with talking about the books for the classic SFF readathon, where I read classic SFF by women, published before the 2000s. I have 4 books on my TBR for this, even though it's 12 days. I have so many other things that I want to read that at least participating felt like this is the way I can do it. I'm going to try and tell you the year they were published. Okay, first up, let's talk about the first book is a book that I've already started, so I only plan on finishing that one. Even though this is an omnibus of 2, I am only obligating myself to the first one, which is 89 pages that I have left, and that is The Shapechanger by Jennifer Roberson. If by some reason I feel like I have more time, I might try and read the next one, but for now I'm only putting on the I'm only trying to read the first one. And to let you know when this was published, the first book was published in 1984 by Jennifer Roberson, so it definitely fits the classic SFF by women prompt. It is a sort of shape changer sort of book that is set in a sort of fantasy-esque like universe, and there are definitely things that I didn't like about it, but when I looked at the notes that I gave for myself, I could definitely see that I enjoyed the writing and I enjoyed where it was going, and I enjoyed how our main character stood up for herself. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it will continue. The next book is a sequel as well, that is from an omnibus as well as the second book in the series. The first one is it's from the Darkest Rising series, and it is The Darkest Rising, which is it's named after. I read Overseer on the Stone in like 5 years ago, so I will be reading this one. This is I think set at sea. I'm not sure. The first one was set at sea a lot. I remember that, and I checked the first couple of pages, and that definitely seemed to be, and that is why it covers the prompt Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is to be set at sea. And just letting you know when this was published, The Darkest Rising was first published in Great Britain in 1973, so definitely also works for this readathon. And this is an Arthurian Legends, if you are not aware. The next book is another book that is published quite a long time ago, and it's by a woman. It is a book that I have heard excellent things about, and it's middle grade. It is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Some of my friends, it's their favorite book of all time, almost like their favorite, at least their favorite middle grade book. And this was published in 1986, which is the year I was born, so I thought that was pretty cool when I noticed that, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading that. Also, I have access to an audio from Howl's Moving Castle on audio, so I don't know, depending on what I feel like when I am into it, if I read it physically or listen to it, we'll see what works, how much time I have, what I have most time for. I mean, if I'm behind on my audios, I'll probably read it, but otherwise I usually get through these books quicker in audio form. So we'll see. The last book I have on my list for the classic SFF is Shards of Honor by Lois McMaster Bushel. This is the first book in the Recursion saga, and this is definitely one I added because of Rachel from Carlaine. She's been talking about this series so much, and I thought, why not read this one now? It's also science fiction, which is something else than all of the other books that I've picked. So I thought it was a good thing. I think this was also published in the 80s. Maybe I should check it because I haven't written it down. 1986. Wow, I really hit my birth year with these books. So another book that was published the year I was born. Now the last 4 things I have on my list, I'll talk about them quickly. The first one is You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, which is a book that I have to read for the Literally Dead book club. This is Kayla's book club from Books and Lala. This covers The Owl of Rhythmancy. Read a book that is not from your favorite genre, and thrillers are definitely not my favorite genre, that's fantasy. So I figured that was the most obvious choice from my TBR. The next thing I have to read is my reread of the month, and that is going to be Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. What fitting is that I read a Harry Potter book in the month that I read, in the month that I have to participate in the Owls. This is also covering one of the Owls. This is going to be covering the Astronomy Owl, where this is a book that you only read at nighttime or when it's dark outside. So I'll try and read that in the evenings because I felt like it was fitting. I enjoy, like, it is a cozy reading experience, so it would be nice to read it in the evenings when I don't have to think too much about things. So that's definitely my aim with this one. Second to last thing that I have to read is Rebel Heart by Anna Love. This was only because I didn't have any books on my TBR already with a heart in the title or the cover, and this was the shortest one I could find. It's only 1 hour and 20 minutes in full time, and it's a prequel story to a series. I'm just listening to this because it will get through it quickly. So, and it covers the owl, ancient runes, which was hard on the cover. Last and final thing on my April TBR is my classic of the month, and I chose to go with A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare for multiple reasons. Number one, I have so many things, I needed to pick the shortest thing almost as I could find. This also fits the owl for potions, where you have to read a book that is less than 150 pages, and this one is 100 pages, 101 I think. And so this definitely works, and I'm looking forward to reading this. I have never read any Shakespeare, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm happy it's really tiny. So that is all of the books that I have on my TBR for this month. Let me know what you're planning on reading this month. Do you have very ambitious plans as well? Are you planning on participating in the Owls? Let me know about that in the comments. Also let me know if you're planning on participating in the classic SFF readathon. There's also the Dewey's this month, which I always participate in, so I want to participate in that as well, which will be beneficial with all of the books that I have. So I'll probably just try and read as much from my TBR as possible that weekend. So yeah, 19 books on my TBR. I am looking forward to reading the majority of them. I have good feeling about them. I hope it will be better. I have really struggled with my reading, the quality of my reading over the past couple of months, and it annoys me so much. So I hope that this month is a good one. So let's see. Yeah, this was everything I had for you today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye.